An acid is defined as any substance that increases the hydrogen ion concentration of a solution or donates a proton into the solution. Okay? So when we talk about our water equation, H2O, in dynamic equilibrium between H3O plus and OH minus, water is functioning as both an acid and a base. Because in this, I forgot the O there. Okay? So in this equation, it's producing a proton and a hydroxide ion. Okay? So this right here, H3O plus can be considered as a proton. But what you end up with in this dynamic equilibrium is that as they move back and forth, H3O plus and OH minus, is that one more than the other? If you're just looking at this equation, just water, nothing else added, are there more protons or hydrogen ions than hydroxide ions? Answer is there shouldn't be, right? They should be equal. Yes? Okay. That's why you end up with water being a neutral pH. Okay? But now when I add another acid from the outside, HCl, what's going to happen to the amount of hydrogen ions? All together now. It's going to increase or decrease? Question mark. Increase. Okay? So what does that do to the pH? How many of you heard of pH before? Okay? Good. So pH is a scale that measures how strong or weak an acid or base are. And it's based upon the concentration of hydrogen ions. Okay? More freely available hydrogen ions, the lower the pH. Okay? Now, water acts as an acid and a base in this situation, so it also donates or produces a hydroxide ion. Or it can accept a hydrogen ion. Okay, so it can accept a H+. So it works as both an acid and a base in a pure aqueous solution. Okay? However, most of the time, there's not a pure aqueous solution. So textbook definition of an acid and a base are there. Base is any substance that reduces the hydrogen ion concentration or donates an OH minus. Okay, proton acceptor. So here's your pH scale. This case right here, right, neutral. H plus is equal to OH minus. You want to add that there? That could, in that case, in pure water, that's your hydronium ion, H3O. Okay? Is equal to hydroxide. Pure water is neutral at pH 7. Okay? Now, when we're talking about aqueous solutions, why are we stressing aqueous solutions when we're talking about biology? Why is water important in biology and life? What are you composed of, Brett?
Because so many things are composed of water.
Right, everything's composed of water. Everything needs water. You, as a human organism, are more than 60% water. Okay? And all your reactions that occur in your body are occurring in an aqueous solution. So, to understand why this is happening, right, is the backbone of what's happening in your body, right, or in the biosphere in general. Okay? So as we move lower than 7, we have a higher H plus or higher hydrogen ion concentration than hydroxide ion. As we move above 7, the hydroxide ions are higher in concentration than than hydrogen ions. Okay? Understand that pH, it is equal to the negative log of the hydrogen ion concentration. Okay? So whether it is a base or an acid, you are measuring how much free hydrogen ions are present in a solution. Okay? So we're not measuring, we never measure our hydroxide ion concentration. But if we have so many hydroxide ions, what's going to happen to the number of free hydrogen ions? They're going to go down. Why? H plus an OH minus yields H2O, which would which would take the hydrogen ions out of solution, right? They're not freely available. They're going to be bound, interacting with the hydroxide ion to form water. So less freely available H plus ions would lead to a decrease or increase in pH, a decrease in, okay? So the pH scale. So in any aqueous solution at room temperature, the product of H plus and OH minus can be written as such. Okay, 10 to the negative 14. Okay, this is mathematics. For a neutral thing, it's 7. All right, again, the important part is this. This is your concentration. Okay, pH is the negative log of a hydrogen ion concentration. Are you going to be asked to calculate that in this class? No. Expect to be able to calculate that in chemistry. All right? Calculate that, pKa, pKb's, kW's, and everything else that the chemists like to throw at you. Okay? But understanding that above 7 is basic and below 7 is acidic, and that this is a 10 times scale. Okay? This is a logarithmic scale. What does a log function do in math? Right? It breaks everything down by the base 10. All right? So the base 10. So in other words, it takes what you're doing and looks at it gives you a number scale based upon how many ions are there. Okay? So when you go from 0, your scale is 0, what's right here, is 0, 7 is neutral, 14 is basic, right? When I go from pH 2 to pH 5, pH 5 is still an acid, yes? Yes or no? Yes. pH 2 is an acid, yes? Which one is stronger? pH 2. How much stronger? And what I mean by how much stronger, I mean how many times more hydrogen ions would be present at pH 2 than pH 5? Why 1,000?
You square it, or you multiply it by 10 3 times.
Multiply. So the difference between 5 and 2 is 3, right? And it's a 10 times scale from going from 2 to 3, and another 10 times 3 to 4, another 10 times 4 to 5. So the difference, you take the difference of the pHs, and put it to that exponent. 10 cubed would be 1,000. All right? So there are 1,000 times more hydrogen ions freely available at pH 2 than there are at pH 5. Okay? That's a measure of the strength of an acid. Okay? Yes?
So to do that, you do 5 times 2.
No, 5 minus 2. Get the difference in pH is 3, and then take that to use that difference, right?
As the
10 to
Yeah.
that
Okay.
exponent. Okay? So here's some lovely stuff. Battery acid, lemon juice. It's about pH 1, pH 1 to 2. Hydrochloric acid is pH. Pure hydrochloric acid is pH 0. Okay? Vinegar, soda, tomato juice, black coffee, rainwater. You'll note right here, pure water is 7. Okay? Human blood, tears are slightly basic, about 7.4. Okay? We keep that in a range from about 7.35 to 7.45. Okay? Most biological reactions occur in that slightly basic range. Okay? Then we have inside of the small intestine, we go increasingly basic, ammonia, bleach, and eventually down to oven clear. Excuse me. Thank you. Questions on pH scale? Now, what we want to avoid in terms of biology is large changes in pH. I told you, I gave you an example, what's the blood pH? And it's kept in a certain range, right? What was it? About 7.35 to 7.45, okay? With the average being about 7.4. Sometimes that changes, okay? What we don't want to happen is it to change very quickly. Because if it changes too quickly, that causes lots of problems, all right? So the internal pH of most living cells is close to 7, okay? And we prevent large changes in that by using what we call buffers, okay? Buffers will work to take hydrogen ions or hydroxide ions out of solution, okay? They'll basically sequester them, okay? So if we go back to our HCl, right, going into this, if I had an aqueous solution of sodium phosphate, okay, well, let's not use that one. Erase that. Sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda. Sodium bicarb is Na2HCO3. Okay? Geez, that's really messy. So erase that and make it a little cleaner there. CO3. Okay? Sodium bicarbonate. All right? In water, actually in an aqueous solution, that's going to separate into sodium and plus and HCO3 minus. Okay? But now what's going to end up happening is if I add an acid to this, what's going to occur? If I add HCl, what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? HCl in the aqueous solution separates and produces H plus and Cl minus. Now what? What can react there between these four things over on this side? All right, so we're going to get this right here. These two, that's going to produce a little salt. Does that affect pH? Yes or no? No. Why? Why does it not affect pH? Because it does not affect the hydrogen ion concentration. Right? So the formation of salt doesn't happen, but what's this? That's an H plus, and this is a CO minus. Yes? So positive, negative, that's going to take hydrogen ions out of concentration. So a couple of these will start matching up with the bicarbonate, and now they come out of concentration. These are no longer freely floating, right? The hydrogen ions are no longer freely floating. So what does that do to pH? Kind of prevents it from swinging a large way. Okay? And that's all a buffer does. So you have buffers in your blood that help to maintain this in order to prevent large swings in pH. And the same thing happens in all your cells. Okay? In terms outside of the body, what's a buffer going to do? Or why do we care about acids and bases? Okay? We burn fossil fuels, okay? We produce carbon dioxide. We produce CO2, right? It goes out in the atmosphere. Happy as can be up here. Right? That reacts with water. Okay? And forms carbonic acid, H2CO3. Okay? There's also sulfates that are in that burn off. Okay? And that produces H2SO4, sulfuric acid. That's found in your little clouds out here, because clouds are basically just water, vapor. Now, when it begins to rain, you end up with what? Acid rain. That ends up in the ocean. What you end up with from there is acidification of the ocean. Why do we care about acidification of the ocean? Why do we care about CO2?
The ocean becomes too acidic, the animals in it.
All right, so ocean becomes too acidic, animals and plants can't live in it. Okay? So CO2 dissolved in seawater forms carbonic acid. This process is called ocean acidification. That acid, so we still have to work to regulate the pH. Okay? So coral reefs are made up of calcium bicarbonate. That's what the coral is. Bicarbonate is a buffer. More acid in the water, that calcium bicarbonate comes off, and you get bleaching of the reefs. All right? Causes problems. So it ends up like something like this. Now, these are all subscripts that all come out. CO2, all right, jet plane, yay, right? It interacts with water, forms H2CO3. Now that could be in rain or at the ocean. Eventually ends up there. Now H2CO3 is a weak acid. So it's going to dissociate and produce more hydrogen ions. Okay? More hydrogen ions. They interact, they form more of this. Right? Eventually you get down where this calcium carbonate interacts and it takes off. You have to move this off to interact with, to prevent the hydrogen ion concentration instead of keeping it on in the coral reefs. All right, and that's the main reason why reefs are bleaching. Okay. Don't write this down, people. Okay, so this is what happens. So here's a nice healthy reef, and then you increase acidity. Is this healthy? Does that water look healthy? No. And then you get to this point where it's just not very nice. Okay? So we also have acid precipitation or acid rain, right, which has a lower pH about 5.2, which also contributes to this. Okay? Questions on acidification of what is on my iPad? No. Okay. Good to go? Yes? All right. So what's next? Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Cancel. Nope, today is 21/16.